Hi, Evan. Evan? No. Wait, I
This
hear
is
you.
there we go.
It works.
I lost focus on Android.
Hmm. So, have you used this calling feature yet?
No, I have not. This is new, and I'm scared, but I'm into it.
We're live on Anchor. I can't cut anything, so this is all in the show.
Oh, sick. Well, sorry that Android phones are bad.
No,
Everyone
it's
listening.
oh no, you sound fine.
Okay,
It's
cool.
just the app. So what I heard last night through the grapevine that there was a conversation going on at a bar about authenticity, and
Yes.
it was I don't know what started the combo, but somehow like somebody people were saying like, oh yeah, no, like disagreeing with my stance on authenticity, which is like I don't even didn't know that I had one.
Yes. Yes. You're well known. You're well known in New York City media circles to have a stance on authenticity.
I don't think I do, but I'd love to hear what my stance is and why it's wrong.
Sure. And yeah. So I mean, there's I think the preface for this is obviously that you saw all these decks from agencies in I'd say around like 2016, 2015 about how the key to going viral, to being successful on social media is authenticity. So I think
Yeah.
that's just a preface of something that everyone that sort of works in these circles has seen. That's sort of the backdrop. And um, you know, this is going to be a little crazy because I don't want to misrepresent someone who may or may not have been misrepresenting you. So this is a deep meta hole that we're going down here. But,
I know, but
but
yeah, whatever.
whatever. I
Okay,
mean, it's
that's a
cool.
good. Yeah, that's a good. Okay, it's a good that you said that. Yes.
Yeah. No, but I think that the contention was that that your stance on this is that um, these people are acting the way they act, and we can kind of dig more into poscore
Mm-hmm.
attitudes on social
Mm-hmm.
because because um, because of that backdrop, because it's so important to come off to the audience as authentic. Where the argument against your supposed point of view was that these people know that they're not being authentic. They don't care. This is all a performance, and your ability to perform or act um, uh, with this degree of authenticity determines your success. So,
Mm-hmm.
the example that I would give here is obviously the Pauls. So, you and I think, I don't want to speak for you, so I'll just speak
Mm-hmm.
for myself. I think that, um, the Pauls at least one of the Pauls is a professional actor, right?
They're
And
both like. I mean,
yeah,
yeah. I mean, that's like loose, loose
loose.
quotes because
Right.
like I don't know if they even were in like high school plays and stuff. Like
Right.
they're actors now.
But they're performers in one sense or another, right?
Yeah.
And I think that we are able to completely see through this act. I think a lot of people who criticize the Pauls can see through this act,
Yeah.
but their audience can't. And we see that in a number of ways, especially interviews that Taylor Lorenz has done a lot of amazing work just going out and interviewing these literal teens who are out, standing around waiting for Jake.
Mm-hmm.
And they they're like, oh yeah, the pranks are so silly, but the Pauls are out there doing all this charity, and so this is what they're doing. There's no critical thinking really of using the charity as a sort of compensation for the things that they're doing, and
Mm-hmm.
sort of all just hiding within that. Also, I just want to mention that, like, I'm pretty sure, actually I need to look this up before they say this, sorry, but that's sort of where the conversation went.
That so what's like to me, I agree. I mean, I'm not sure where you were going with at the end, but I do agree that authenticity is what people are trying to sell. And like, how do you define authenticity? It's like truth. It's like no bullshit. This is like the 100, you know, the emoji 100 with the lines under it, like keeping it 100. Like
Yes.
that, if you're keeping it 100, then you're authentic. And which is why, like the trashcast, we're starting a clothing line called 0-100, because it's like, it's sort of like the illusion of authenticity, but it's actually all lies.
Yeah, so I think that's the critical aspect, right? Is that you have been characterized as defining what these people are doing as selling authenticity. And I agree with that. I agree with that.
It's like, it's authentic.
Yeah, it's authenticity in air quotes.
Sorry, an alarm went off on my phone, and somebody knocked on my door within like 5 seconds of each other.
Jeez, Louis.
Okay, yeah. Wait. Yes, they're selling authenticity, and authenticity is like loosely defined, because authenticity is just, it's hard to say what what authenticity is, but
Right.
it's at least the illusion of like no bullshit, like this is the real me. Like
that's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
Like Casey Neistat performs authenticity so well. His whole thing is like I'm not saying like everything you're seeing is like the real, like he shows his camera falling over all the time. When he opens boxes, he's just like rips them open. Whenever you see like him making anything, it's quickly scrawled with a Sharpie. It's like the performance of not giving a fuck and just doing every thought is the first thought is the right thought.
Well, that's a really interesting way of putting it, but the aspect that I think is really important is that, you know, these people are sort of mirrors, right? Like you want to see in these people what you want to see in yourself. I
would say any certain influencer you're following is sort of like the most romantic version of yourself. Like if you're a person who's into sports or like weightlifting, like maybe you follow an influencer who's more into that stuff, and he's like,
yes,
his life is sort of like a model life for what you might be aiming for.
Yeah, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that per se, but the question is like, you know, how do you even put this? Like it's really important for people to feel, you know, there's been a lot of, at least buzz, I think, you know, I would love to research this more, but, you know, the importance of personal identity in contemporary culture. And, you know, the reality is that actually Casey says all the time in his vlogs that, you know, like he didn't take his camera with him on vacation, or he didn't take the camera with him to like a hospital visit and sort of stuff like that. And you know, so he's really deftly navigating this, I think, and it's cool that he's being so transparent, but there are aspects of his persona, his character, that are not transparent. Like he said almost nothing about Beam. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He doesn't talk about his entrepreneurial endeavors except for in sort of like press release YouTube videos, which I think is smart and probably from a legal standpoint the right way to go. But there's zero transparency with the Pauls, and you know, I don't know, you know, I worked for Oath, and we just had that Oath show canceled. Did you see about that?
I actually didn't know.
I really don't know enough about that to comment on it, but basically Oath had these four women, these four sisters, who, you know, just had some like really poscore, just generic bullshit, you know, some cooking stuff, lifestyle stuff, nothing crazy. But their mom, it was, you know, like a outspoken right-wing griefer sort of on social. And, you know, across these girls' personal accounts, across these girls' public accounts, and of course in their like actual show, you know, they never mention that. And so the stuff that had come out in the last couple of days is about how hard they've worked to hide that aspect of their family, and it's really hard work. Like they show, there's a lot of good work, like social digging going on of like they hid, they set up all these parties and whatnots to hide this mom. Yeah, like she's like not in the pictures. They did good work hiding her. But that's the thing. I think looping this back to the conversation is like this authenticity is not real. It is cherry picked to develop.
Yeah. And so what's like the argument against that? Is that authenticity has never been real and you've always been like curating your appearance to people?
Yes, that is the core of the counter argument. Yes.
Yeah, I mean I agree with that, but I mean I just don't think that that's any reason not to call out these people for still selling something that is fake. Like I would call out like the people in the past who were just like, who were fake IRL. Just like I'm calling out the people that are fake on the internet. I just think they have new tools that make it a lot easier to appear even more real and even more like authentic than before.
And the fact that you can test so cheaply, you can develop your character for nothing. You don't have to develop it on the budget of a big network channel. You can sort of feel that out. And, I mean, I have my early YouTube videos are unlisted now. Like that shit sucks. That was, I would argue, even more authentic. That was pure authentic.
I keep all my old YouTube videos up, and they're pretty embarrassing.
Yes. Well, here's the thing. It's interesting because I do think that there is a market for actually authentic stuff. It's just I'll give you an example. There was in my like YouTube, just the ridiculous ocean of content that's on YouTube, I came across a guy who's playing a horny dating sim, and this is a Polish guy who was trying to get better at English, so he was reading out all the dialogue from this horny dating sim, and like every 20,
Can you tell me what a horny dating sim is? Sorry, I feel like maybe I should know what that is, but I don't.
Oh, it's a date. So some dating sims like Dream Daddy, you never get to really do sexy stuff. Like it sort of fades to black, and they're like, oh yeah, they're gonna go do something, But it's pretty tame.
But what's a dating sim?
A dating sim? A dating sim is a video game traditionally where you have this sort of dialogue trees for all these different characters, and you can sort of choose dialogue options and try and develop relationships with the characters in it. So you can be a total bum to one person if you don't want to date them, and then really try and be sweet to another one and hope that you get the kiss or whatever. In the dating sim, you should try Dream Daddy. It's amazing.
All right.
You gotta date your ideal daddy.
That's cool. I'll try it.
Yeah. But then also there are ones that are just like straight up like on screen horny text situation. And so this guy is just straight up reading the shit, like the sex noises, all of it. And he's not hesitating. Like he is absolutely not hesitating, and he's clearly not a professional. He's like he's like on a webcam. And it's so cringy, but it's also like so funny and amazing. And I think that like he really has no like audience development strategy. I don't think he ever considered when he was making this being a capital Y YouTuber. There is a market for that stuff, and I think that a really big problem is that there's really no way for people to make a good distinction between that unless you're studying it, sort of like we are.
Yeah, I guess my criticism of like, because like I don't really care. Like I think it's kind of interesting. Like I've been watching lots of old reality shows recently. Like I watched The Flavor of Love season 2. Yeah. which I was like on the Wikipedia, and I found out it was like the most watched finale of 2006.
Yeah,
it was huge. But like that show, and all reality shows are, and it's funny that they're called reality shows because they're like some of the fakest TV out there. Like you're watching it and you're thinking like, well, the producers like made this happen, or this was like edited to look a little bit more fake. but then and it's so formulaic. Like everything has such like the extremely firm structure. Like at the beginning, like there's always an elimination at the end. You know, like they're these extremely formulaic. But then I would say, like, I guess, like, there are real things that happen, like authentic things that happen on reality shows that you can never write into, as fake as they are, like reality slips through the cracks of the formulas. And I see this too. And like when I watch Jake Paul videos, like I know that he has this character of like this fun loving dude that just like likes to shoot his friends with airsoft guns and stuff like that.
Right.
But like he does a fucking 15-minute video every day. Reality is going to slip through the cracks as hard as he tries to like present an authentic version of himself. The real authentic version of himself is going to slip out. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm like, that's why I don't know if I even have a position on authenticity. It's really, it's something that's fun to talk about, but I know it's like a flawed idea to begin with, because like you can't really define it.
Yeah, well, the term is loose. It doesn't really mean anything in particular. But I also think that it is at the core. Like I was just having this conversation about, people have a really hard time understanding the scope of YouTube, and that's in my work. That's a problem that I bump into a lot. A question in my work frequently is like, why should we care about YouTube? You know, when you're working with big multinational corporate media companies, very common question of why should you care about YouTube?
Mm-hmm.
And what I have found in, kind of grappling with that question repeatedly at different companies is that people have no idea how many people are watching YouTube, how many people are creating on YouTube, and the sizes of the audience of YouTubers. There are, several thousand people who have more than 1 million subscribers on YouTube, and people just don't know that, or they can't really understand that. But the important thing is not these numbers at all. It's how influential this culture is. And that's why I do think that, like, even though it's really difficult to have a conversation about authenticity, it is you just can't have a conversation about the culture of YouTube without having a conversation about whatever this air quoted authenticity word is, right?
Yeah.
Because you're right. Like Casey Neistat is the master. I would say his HBO show is an even better example of the pursuit of authenticity on screen.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't think the two can be separated. So I think if you want to have a conversation about YouTube, if you want to have a conversation about digital media platforms, you just can't even begin to approach them without some sort of conversation about authenticity.
Yeah, I think. Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, I was like, what makes YouTube differently is at least the feeling of authenticity, because you're kind of participating in the media a little bit, like depending on the actual creator, like they'll read the comments and they will make changes based on your feedback, and you feel, and there's on Instagram, Twitter and stuff, sometimes the creator will like a tweet that you tweet at them or whatever. That feeling of connection to the creator, that feels real, that feels authentic. And I mean, it's up for debate as to whether that is a real connection, or if it's a valuable connection. So that's like something I think about too, is like that's sort of the value in YouTube, or what feels different than like watching MTV on cable, like this feeling that you are connected to it.
Do you remember in the era of Bear Grylls, the other guy who was doing a sort of like outdoors nature show, but he shot it all himself?
Yeah.
What was that called?
Survivor Man, I think.
Survivor Man. See, just in case anyone watches this and wants to take a master class in balancing authenticity and also shooting video of yourself, Survivor Man was a fucking masterpiece.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I'm saying. It's a real TV show.
I never watched much of it. Honestly, I didn't like Survivor Man, and this is funny to say in this conversation, because like it was kind of more boring because the shots weren't as good. Like
that's true.
and I knew that Bear Grylls had those people there to, like, you know, if something really bad would have happened, they could have saved him. But the pure, like, just looking at the shots, like, watching Bear Grylls was better.
Way better, way better. But it's really interesting. Survivor Man sort of didn't achieve that like level of Bear Grylls hype,
even though he was more real.
Yes, and that's, I mean, you know, that's I think that also kind of is a nice, you know, supporting example to your reality TV conversation, because there's literally nothing real about it.
I mean, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter what is like honest. It matters like what comes across as, or what feels more real, or what feels more authentic, I guess.
Well, let me ask you this, right? So I had a conversation with someone the other day about the concept of sorry, I just got a Slack. The concept of selling out, right? And how, you know, when I was growing up, like, the idea of selling out was really bad. Like, you know, you didn't want to endlessly shill your products. You didn't want to kind of make it look like you were doing this for money, or, you know, doing XYZ for money. What do you think? How does that square with authenticity, and especially with the recent, like, Logan Paul, like, bought at merch situation?
It's crazy because, like, well, this is a huge conversation that I don't even know if I want to start completely, but, like,
Sure.
Like, everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. Everybody wants to be self-made. Everybody wants to be, as my favorite author, Brooke Aaron Duffy. I don't know if she's my favorite, but she writes about social media really well and influencers really well. Brooke Aaron Duffy, from her book Not Getting Paid to Do What You Love, would say that everybody wants to have fun, be free, and get paid to be me, you know?
Yes.
Like, I'm just being me, and somehow I'm getting paid from it. And so the idea that Logan Paul is, like, always hawking his merch is, like, if you support Logan Paul, if you buy his shirt and you see how successful he's become by being himself, then that opens up the possibility in your imagination that you could be in his position too.
Right.
And so that's why it doesn't seem authentic when it comes from Logan Paul, because whenever you are somehow making money from just being me, it's not fake. It's not selling out. It's succeeding in the most authentic way.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
This is all Brooke Aaron Duffy. Folks, read Brooke Aaron Duffy.
Okay, so I have one.
There's lots of, you can Google her name too, and she's given a couple, like, talks.
So Adrian tweeted this morning. There's an article from the MIT Technology Review. It's called "If You're So Smart, Why Aren't You Rich? Turns Out It's Just Chance." And I don't want to dive into it too much, but it's relevant to this conversation, and I think people would really.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing I care much more about, rather than authenticity, is just the fact that, like, the internet has this, like, folklore about it, that it's like the place where, like, race disappears, sex disappears, class disappears, we're all just fucking bits. And it's called the digital meritocracy, where, like, the world is full of all these like, bad things like racism, sexism, classism, but the internet is just this utopia where everybody has a voice and everybody's the same. And so success on the internet is
it's merited.
Is held up as, like, proof of that.
Yeah.
But it's actually that a lot of the same structures that existed before the internet are reinscribed in the internet, and the rich people are just getting richer, and it's not any different. Like, I don't know. I could say this way better, but I don't know.
Well, I mean, I think it just accelerates it. Like, your ability to leverage your capital on the internet is way higher and way faster.
Mm-hmm.
There are fewer barriers to entry. And a great example of that is Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was just having a conversation with, I was just at a wedding, and
Hmm.
one half of my family was just super savvy, super on top. Uh, got in on Bitcoin when it was like super, super, super low, right? But they had the capital to throw a
Hmm.
bunch of, to throw, several
Yeah.
tens of thousands of dollars in. And then, the other half of my family is like, yeah, we knew about it, but just didn't have a shitload of money to throw into it. You can't, it
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
matter if you can put in
You can't. Yeah. You can't take
$120.
risks like that.
Yeah, exactly. But what I mean though, like that, that's just that's luck. But also what
Hmm.
it comes down to is that with the internet, you don't need to pay a lawyer to create an LLC for you and then develop a small business and then get a small business loan and then, do all those things. You can take your capital right now and do a lot of things with it.
Hmm.
Be as easy as, going to B&H and buying the best camera gear and just deciding you're going to vlog now. Um, and just go into town. And there's nothing wrong with that per se, but it does fly in the face of what you were saying earlier about a pure meritocracy where talent is really the thing that's there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. I mean, it's like I can't. I'm trying to find the quote. I'm digging through my Brooke Aaron Duffy right now. I'm trying to find. I'm trying to find the quote, but it was just like the thing. It from her. She did a lot of. She interviewed tons and tons of beauty bloggers, and she
Oh,
found
cool.
out that the main thing that the most successful ones had in common was they were already rich. They had a network of people that could help them. They had uh, money from their parents. They had, and she said it comes down to the ability to take risks. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to take risks, and you can't take risks if you don't have a safety net.
Right,
And
right. I mean, I've personally lived that. You know
mm,
what I mean? Like, I went out to California to start a little consulting company with a business partner, and just for various reasons, uh, it didn't work out. And the thing was, though, is that like I had never really tasted real failure before that, and like it's harder. I think it's harder than people really appreciate when you really hit that like close to $0 mark in your bank account. It's really hard to do
yeah.
anything. It's difficult to get an apartment after that. I wasn't in a position where I couldn't pay for my bills, so I didn't have you know, a credit, any kind of like impact on my credit score. But before I did, when I first came to New York, I was getting paid so little that did happen. And like, if I had sustained two sort of like runs of bad credit, it would be impossible for me to get an apartment here in New York City because of the diligent credit checks that they often
Hmm.
do. And so, yeah, I just want to point out that there's like real, very significant consequences. There's a lot of people out there who are banging the drum for like take risks, move fast and break things, and it's like that's totally cool if there are no
Yeah,
consequences for
and I
you
think that
personally.
that is my biggest. You're like saying exactly what I've been thinking lately about Casey Neistat and Gary Vee and stuff is that while I agree that like taking risks and just doing it and working hard is good, it's key if you want to succeed in the way they do. It's this, it overshadows that not very many people can actually take those risks without threatening their life.
Right. And I think that Casey is a little bit better example because he is older. Like a lot of people on YouTube who are crushing it on YouTube are really young, and that's totally
Hmm.
cool. But I do think that Casey actually does have the credibility, um, because he really did work his way into this. But he is like 36 years old, and he only started to blow up on YouTube after a career in television and video, and after sort of digging himself out of a very challenging financial
Hmm.
situation, which is completely different than Gary, who, no one's saying that Gary didn't work hard. No one's saying that. But, he got a huge investment from his
Hmm.
parents. Um, and, I think I just do think that there's a big credibility problem and a big gulf between the two of them. And also, like, I think we can all agree that like once you're in a position of having a shitload of money, you start saying weird things that like rich people
Yeah.
say. Like, I mean, like I love Will Smith, but like look at the interviews that Will Smith has been doing.
I know. He's an influencer now too, you see?
I know. I totally see.
His vlogs are Casey Neistat ripoff. It's hilarious. They're horrible.
They're bad. But I mean, the way he's playing around with his like son's brand, I think is cute and cool. But other than that, it's awful weird.
What I would say about Casey Neistat too, yeah, like I think once you get successful, people start asking you like, "What did you do? How did you get there?" And I think like you have to start trying to like dissect your life and think about what you did, and you don't necessarily know. Like it's hard to really even say, to look back and say what you did right and wrong. So I don't totally blame them, right. But I also think Casey Neistat is held up as the example of like working, like coming from nothing. Because that's the story people want to hear. Because so many people are in a really bad place right now. And if you see somebody who was also in a really bad place and now is succeeding so like spectacularly, of course you're interested in his life. Because here's what I would like to say. He's the exception, not the rule. The rule is rich people get richer. And that's the unfortunate thing that he overshadows when he just talks about meritocracy and working hard.
Right. And but I don't want to just complain about everything. What I want to see is more people talking about specifically how they got their big breaks, because that is fundamentally still what it comes down to. And I hate that we've gotten away from a culture of, actively trying to find a big break, because when you really break down the moment between being a complete nobody and gaining momentum in your career, it really comes down to a sort of break or an opportunity, right? And putting yourself in a position to find or have or execute on that opportunity is like the actual thing that people should do, and not just #hustle. Maybe, but I mean that's how I did it. That's how a lot of people that I personally know did it. I'm not going to say that's the end all be all. I mean, you could definitely raise yourself up by your own bootstraps, but it's incredibly hard and it's incredibly rare.
Yeah, like I'm not sure I don't want to be negative either. All I was just saying is like don't overshadow the truth with some like dream of like rags to riches, when it's just like not very helpful for anyone. Like I just think that's so rude when I think about like a really poor minority or somebody that's somewhere that's super, super poor, and they're working harder and harder every day, and they're just getting nowhere. And they believe in this meritocracy, and it's just so sad to me. And so I don't know what the solution is, other than vote for more like infrastructure and safety nets for everybody. Like that is the solution. But I think it's hard.
Well, there's one more aspect of this that I want to really dive into, which is the differences between people and how, your individual personality is an influencing factor. Because like one thing that is true about Casey is that he has an absolutely unreasonable level of energy.
Mm-hmm.
And, like I have been through periods where, I really wanted to, I wasn't really emulating Casey. It's just like, you really want to be out there hustling, quote unquote. And for me, it's not possible. Like if I do that, I will go through withdrawal periods. And I think at least some other people will too. If you go through, so for me, what that means, if I want to work at the level of Casey, where it's like you get up at 5 a.m., go running, do a bunch of work that you're absolutely stoked about because fortunately you're in a position to do that. But let's say you're not, you get up at 5 o'clock, go work at McDonald's until 8 o'clock at night, and then work on your self-made YouTube channel or something like that. Like, it's great that Casey can do that, and I totally am jealous. But if I did that, I would go through a burnout period and stop doing it.
Yeah, I do that all the time. Your eyes get bigger than your stomach, and you like put a bunch of stuff on your plate, and then you're like, holy shit.
And I follow a lot of, I'm much more interested in illustrators because I just love illustration. It's just something I like. And at least they are really vocal about how to manage your time, how to not get discouraged when you go through an art block, because art block is a thing. Just, everyone has it.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody, there's no sort of like personal meritocracy where it's like, well, oh, you hit a stumbling block, well, you're just not hashtag
Mm-hmm.
hustling. It's like everyone hits these stumbling blocks. How do you work through them? How do you, especially what I like about that community is that, like, there's a lot of practical advice for, like, okay, you've decided that what you want to do is illustrative art. You're not going to get paid a lot to do that, but here's specifically how you work your way through that sort of thing. And, like, what I wish had happened, Casey recently did a video where he critiqued a Bloomberg article.
I saw that. It was yesterday. Yeah. And, like, I was like so mad. I was like, it's because, like, like, you just keep going. Sorry.
No. I mean, but the thing is like, he didn't even dispute the numbers, right? So if the probability is that small, but like he said, the people who he was speaking to supposedly are the people who have made the decision that they want to be a creative person on YouTube, right? But unlike this Illustrator community that's, like, so prevalent on Tumblr and that has recently migrated over to Twitter, there's no practical advice in that video for how to continue, like, how to do this in a sustainable way, how to make it into a real career, which was the entire point of the Bloomberg article, is that there is no school, there's no vocational stuff really to do that. There's stuff on YouTube about it, but there's really no clear-cut path. And that was, I mean, in my interpretation of the Bloomberg article, that's what they're saying, is that the probabilities are very small and there's no clear-cut path. And relative to how many kids in the study wanted to be YouTubers, it's a really dangerous proposition.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Like the Brooke Aaron Duffy book and a lot of work is the exact same story. It's just like so many people want to do it, so few people can. It's like it's being a YouTuber has been compared to being like it's the new rock star, and it's like it's all the same barriers, or it seems similar. Like the same amount of people get successful. Very few.
Yeah.
It's not like a job. It's not like fucking driving a truck. It's a dream job. And it's also the other thing Brooke talks about is even once you're at the level of like having fun and being free and just being me, you have like this huge team of people who is helping you create this content, managers and stuff, that you're not actually doing it yourself anymore. And the character that you're selling is barely even you anymore. And so this idea that you're just being you is also a lie. Like it's not even the person that's at the top who is like supposedly successful is not really living the reality that they're selling. So it's like, this myth is serving no one except like YouTube, because then like they get people engaging on their platform and sell more advertising.
Absolutely. And the other thing that I think is really a really important question that hasn't been answered yet is like, what is the life cycle of stardom on this platform, right?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, the thing about this platform and these creators is another thing that Brooke says is like they're trying to make sure they're not tied to any platform. Like they're a general creator. Like whatever new platform might emerge, they have to appear like they will thrive on that new platform. Like Vine 2, I'm coming for you.
Yeah.
Whatever this new one, Vero. What's the new
Vero.
Check me out on Vero. Like no matter what comes at me, I'm a mercurial figure that can adapt to any environment.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Well, I mean, but that's what I mean though, is that like, but I don't know, because once you're dug in and you're at the level of like oh God, what are those two guys? The Good Mythical Morning guys? Like they have a team. Well, here's what I'm saying is like it has taken them 10 years to get to this point on YouTube, right? And they're making it's basically a TV show. It's really close to a TV show. Yeah, it really does
look like it. And it looks like a set. It looks like fucking Seinfeld on their set.
Yeah, and I'm into it. Like I think those guys are great. But they've worked really hard on this. But if you listen to their most recent interview with H3H3, they're not even sure how long this gravy train is going to last, and they're part of the like top 1% of YouTube. And that, I mean, just to go back to it, is like we know that this meritocracy is not incredibly real. There's definitely a first mover advantage, like especially with these guys, because they took YouTube professionally
Yeah.
from the very
Yeah.
beginning. But you know, what Casey said on his recent video was correct, which is that, it's going to be harder after this every day. But I think the other missing factor in this function is like, even once you achieve it, how long can it last? Because people's like, I don't think that the people who are fans of Logan Paul will continue to be fans as they venture into their mid to late 20s if he continues to be the same person.
Well, he's starting a podcast.
Same character. Oh my god, that's going to be great. I'm sure that's going to be.
But to me, that's
amazing.
what I'm saying. Like he is not like to me, it's kind of like he's just saying "fuck you, YouTube," for demonetizing me completely. I'll just go somewhere else and do something else. I'm a creator, not a YouTuber.
I mean, that's yeah, that is smart. Like, that is the nice thing about podcasts, is that you truly can be pretty fucking independent.
Yeah.
But also your audience is going to be smaller. But
to answer your question, though, I think that's just like, how long does any celebrity stay famous? Like, somehow the musician,
like, rock stars have found a way. Like, musicians have found a way to really extend their profitability, but there is no paradigm for that in terms of digital.
No, but I'm saying that YouTubers are the new rock stars, and they will have similarly similar careers to rock stars, in that some will have like decades and decades long careers, and some will be there around for like a month or two. Yeah, I don't know if you can really like look at the whole system and like even start to say like what an average lifespan of a career as an influencer on YouTube might be. That's just my opinion.
I think you're right. I think you're totally right. I just, since we personally work with people who are doing this, I'm just like, fuck. It's so risky, you know what I mean? But podcasts are at least pretty safe.
One more thing that I've never talked about with anybody, going back to the authenticity thing, and this is like some real brain soup sort of stuff that I've never even said out loud to anyone, but it's something I think about a lot. The Scobalizer, right?
Oh yeah, the most OG.
Well, I was listening to a podcast with Robert Scoble a long time ago, and I remember he was talking about Google Glass, how he was one of the guys who was like famous for wearing Google Glass in the shower, right? There's that one. He's just like, he's a crazy dude. But I remember he was saying that whenever he was wearing it a lot, he was looking at his like little baby at the time, and his baby did something cute, and he quickly like put his finger up, hit the button to take a picture, and then went back to his normal stuff. And he was talking about how that was the killer app on the Google Glass, because it was so quick. Whereas before, even now, like, you have a smartphone, you got to take it out, open it, turn on the camera, make sure everything's in focus, hit record, and then you're done. And then you leave the moment completely because you're thinking about saving the moment.
Right.
And he calls it like the time between intention and interaction. So the time between wanting to do something and then actually doing it. And to me, one thing that I'm not sure if this is going to lead to more authenticity, but I think about like how Twitter is like a more gut reaction sort of social network, where it's so short and so fast that you sort of tweet and you go. Like, that's why people say like don't tweet ever, because you are sort of unguard. You sort of just are a little bit reactionary, like the time between thinking about a tweet and tweeting. There's almost no buffer, and you can get in trouble for that sometimes. But
I personally have. I have made stupid tweets that I have apologized for, and because it's not I don't even think there is a delay. Like, I think into the box. Like, I've started writing before the concept is finished. Like, you know what I mean? And it's gotten me. I mean, I've never like tweeted something really mean or terrible. It's just like sometimes you just don't think about the context, so you're just blasting thoughts into a text box, and it just law of large numbers. You're gonna fuck up sometimes. Like, I've been on this platform since 2008 or 2009 or something like that. I think that I am being really authentic on there, and I think that sometimes that's gotten me in trouble. And so I can definitely relate sort of kind of to the sort of plight of the YouTuber, the modern plight of the YouTuber. It's like, oh, you said some problematic shit, but also like, there are ranges and scopes to your problematic nature. Like, I really think that there's a lack of there. On one hand, I think that the Pauls are self-aware and they know what they're doing. But then, when Logan came back, didn't apologize for the suicide video situation, I'm like, actually, no, you learned nothing. You took nothing.
Yeah.
And you spun it back outwards as like, these people are being so mean to me. And you're dumb. Like, that's just dumb.
What I would say too, like when you were talking about how on YouTube, like the difference between YouTube and Twitter though, is that there's like 13 steps to upload a YouTube video. Like,
yeah, that's true. The several hour-long video edits to repeatedly hear yourself.
Yeah, depending on what kind of video you're making. I mean, you could just like you record straight into the app and hit upload, I guess, but I don't think that many people do that.
Well, there's a lot of live streamers out there. I mean, that's how PewDiePie fucked himself.
But
up.
I just wonder, like, and think about how Snapchat, you open it, you're already in the camera, you can hit go. Like, the time between like thinking about a snap and doing it is a little bit quicker there. And so, like, to me, I'm just not like, this is the brain soup. Like, I'm not sure if making the time between intention and interaction smaller and smaller will lead to like a more authentic social network. I'm putting that in big quotes. Or if it will just lead to like what Twitter is.
No. I think here's the difference. I would say this really smart thing about Snapchat, and I don't even know if this was intentional, is that you are, it's really important to keep in mind that YouTube and Twitter are by nature public broadcast platforms, right? Whereas Snapchat it can be, but even in its most public form, you're still in a much smaller, a normal user, not like a celebrity, but like in a much smaller, you can be authentic because not only is the distance between impulse and posting very short, you also have control over who sees it and a much smaller attack surface to work with. And
it'll go away if your friends happen to not watch it that day, they'll never see it again, or it'll never be available to see again.
Yeah, this concept of never tweet is completely obviated by the like ephemeral aspect of it, which is really smart. It's really cool. But I do think that leads to higher levels of actual capital A authenticity. But like, yeah, anytime you start pointing that laser gun of self towards a broadcast medium, you immediately start losing it.
And what I wonder is just like so you regret sometimes like you said, you've tweeted and you've regretted it. You're like, wish I would have worded that a little bit differently. Even though you thought you were being like authentic, some people just perceive that as harsh, and maybe you wanted to take it back.
100%.
I wonder though, like, okay, so maybe we do set up these social networks where everybody's acting impulsively and saying things they don't mean. Maybe, I think this is my great theory. My theory about Twitter is like, there's nothing wrong with it. Maybe. Well, I guess, okay, I don't want to say that, but like we maybe need to think about, like, this is something, I'm not sure if I'm like twisting Wendy Chun's words, which is another author I love who writes about this stuff, but she says we need to develop a politics of forgiveness, like FORE, like realizing that people are going to say things that are impulsive on here, and like think about the nature of that and how things like that slip out, and be forgiving of that. And I don't know.
That's really cool. That's really smart. I mean, there's a really important balance between people who are, I mean, that's the thing is that like there's a real schism between. That's a really interesting concept because there was a great. I mean, I'm gonna get in trouble for even saying this, but like, there's a great article today about these forums on Steam about school shooters, And the same thing has definitely been a thing on Reddit. And like, it's true that this is gross. It's disgusting. But the reality is that like, they actually interviewed people. It's some kind of weird internet art. It all goes back to 4chan, where people are like role playing in these horrible scenarios. But like, most of the time they're role playing. Like, they're on online forums acting as some kind of character, and it's all that also goes to the discussion between using real names and anonymity online. But of course, all those guys were like, yes, we're doing this for the lulz, in the classic fashion. But we all completely agree that it's just a matter of time. That's what they said in the article, is that multiple of them acknowledged that it was just a matter of time until someone hurt someone, and that did happen. And to apply this concept of forgiveness to them, it doesn't work in the framework that we have it right now, right? Like, they know they're doing something wrong. They like doing it anyway. The question is like, there's a lot of different questions, right? Like, if you're a fully fledged adult and you're choosing to act in this way, you need to take responsibility for your actions. But like, what happens when you're a literal 13-year-old? And you're still learning, and that stuff exists forever now because it's on the internet. Like, where do you draw the lines? How do you educate people? And like, hey, this is not only is this uncool, it's probably going to stick around forever if it never gets moderated. Your best case scenario is a mod takes you down. So I mean, yeah, I love the concept of forgiveness. But there's so many corner cases there.
It's also, it's kind of like, like I said, I didn't want to twist Wendy's words, because the concept of forgiveness doesn't just like forgive 4chan douchebags. It like forgives like people who like send sects, like the idea that like you should not like send your body on, like naked body online, like things like that. Like, just realize that this is the place where everybody's sharing everything and leaks happen.
Right. Absolutely. I've thought about this recently. Like, I took some nudes, and I don't know where that SD card is. I don't. I'm just curious. I'm just like, I wonder where that'll turn up. / where did I leave that? And my only thing is like, man, I got to get in shape so that when that happens, when someone does eventually post those online and just says, haha, look at this, I got to be in very good shape. So I can be like, yeah, you like that? Let me go. I'm gonna like rent a studio, bring in some people, and be like, how about this?
You're gonna. So are you proud of the pics that could possibly leak? You think they're good, flattering?
No, because I'm a little bit. I'm wearing a little winter weight right now. But like, if no, but at the same time, like me personally, the way I would react to that is be like, all right, let's double down, which is often not the best reaction online, but in this case, I think it works.
That's a,
as long as it's controlled.
That's like when sex tapes are about to leak and they're just like, we're selling it. And
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
There's in that scenario, there's really nothing you can do. It's cool. It's very cool that we are getting revenge porn laws on the books. But yeah, I mean that's so yeah. I mean, there's a lot of culture. I think that what this comes down to kind of round this out, is just that there are a lot of aspects of the way human beings conduct themselves online that have just never been. There's just no precedent for it, really. But I do want to separate the malpractice that's happening on these the malevolence that's happening on these platforms, like the Steam, Reddit, 4chan situation, versus the mass media appeal. Like, they're so different. We kind of meandered from one into the other, and that's sort of my fault. But like, what I do think needs, to take it back to the beginning, like, I think that there needs to be checks and balances on the people who are bartering authenticity, right? Because you are defrauding people into the idea that you can do, all you have to do is be perfect, be yourself, but also be perfect. Work yourself to death. And it's just not true.
Yeah,
you know. But there's no Security Exchange Commission for the teens who want to become YouTubers because they have been fed basically a non-truth about how the internet works.
Yeah, I mean, we were too, though. Everybody, like, that's again going back to Wendy Chun. She thinks like the like, maybe she doesn't say the original sin, but I'll say it. The original sin of the internet is it's being proposed as this place where digital meritocracy is, like this digital utopia, and that we're still sort of seeing the aftershock of being wrong about that, and people still treating it that way. And so, like, I don't know what the new metaphor for what the internet actually is. Like, what is a better metaphor for the internet than a digital meritocracy? Like, maybe that would be helpful if we all had the same concept in our mind of what this is. But I don't know. Maybe that's a weird thing to even say. I'm not sure.
No, I just think that what it'll come down to is, like, teens will start to realize that this shit is fake. Just like, when I was a teen, the idea that selling out was shitty and it made you fake. I think that, like, eventually people will get over this and people will be like, buy my merch, and they have 100 Instagram followers. People will be like, fuck. No.
Okay. Here's I don't know if this is real. Do you know Chuck Klosterman?
Yes.
He writes about pop culture a lot. People know him. He's like a pop culture person. Like, he writes about everything. But he had a really famous essay about the real world it was the first essay in Sex, Drugs, and Cocoa Puffs. And he talks about how the first season of the real world was like boring, but people watched it because it was like new. It was like you're watching people at home, and it's kind of just weird to like see people do nothing. And then a couple seasons in, we talked about this in the Trashcast, Puck came. And Puck was a little bit different because Puck realized it was all a show. And he realized that he just needed to be like bombastic and entertaining and controversial, and that's what would get views. And then subsequent seasons of The Real World and Road Rules and stuff, people started getting more and more extreme, and they became these characters. And then Chuck Klosterman said he realized everyone in his life was just becoming one of these archetypes from Real World or Road Rules.
That's scary.
Oh wait, there's a building inspector here. So that's what I'm wondering. Like, if kids are presented with this, hold on. There's a person from the city here inspecting the apartment.
Hi, how are you?
Okay.
The inspector is here.
Okay, you can come in. So they're inspecting, the fire inspectors, making sure we're not going to burn down. So I guess the danger I see, the only small danger, I mean, this is not real, this is speculation, is that like when kids see these YouTubers and they see them present themselves as like, this is me, this is reality, then they have a new bar for what is like an attainable life. And that life that's being presented for them isn't even being lived by the people that are presenting it. And so, I don't know. As long as they understand that it's like extremely fake, I'm fine with it. But I do like worry about what Chuck Klosterman says is that all his friends just turned into Real World and Road Rules characters. It's just like and it's related to this. You know, what is it? Fuck. There's this article about like the copy of the map, like what's real, the map or the territory. And so you get like each so each season of The Real World like was doing an impression of last season, and so they become more and more amplified, more and more bombastic, more and more crazy to get ratings. And so real people don't exist anymore. It's just like these people that are doing an impression of what they think reality is.
Oh, yeah, weird.
It's a great article. Okay. It's a really
That's interesting.
If there's anything to read out of this, I would read that.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder what it's like. If you're like, let's say you're graduating high school right now. Like, do you have an entire cohort of friends who is just like every single day they're just like, "What's up, YouTube? Energy levels 12 out of 10. How are you today?" let's get it real in the Instagram story right now. Yo, what's up? Supreme drop in 10 minutes.
Yeah. I think there probably are kids like that, but then I also think like, okay, I guess people have always kind of just been doing characters, like even in their real life. Like you've met people that seem like a fucking character. They seem like a cartoon. So like the fact that like people are acting like people from TV shows or YouTube videos, I don't know if that matters that much, but yeah, I don't know. This is all. Is that not
I don't think it
authentic?
matters.
Like, if I watch Pee Wee Herman a lot, if I watch and I start acting like Pee Wee, and I use like Pee Wee Herman's character to communicate with people, I mean, is that not authentic? I don't know.
I mean, that's true, but also like I think what it really comes down to is a question for me of is there room for people in these digital economies? Like, okay, let's say that you decide you do want to become a YouTuber, right? But you don't have that sort of real world type bombastic energy, right? I actually think that you totally can. It's just harder.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The audience is much more niche. I think the people who are out there doing really good, thoughtful, high quality video essays are leading the charge on that. At least in terms of the YouTube ecosystem. I don't know what that looks like on Instagram or anything else really, but at least on YouTube there is at least something there in terms of that. So,
yeah.
But in those formats, they're not selling themselves as a character. They're not selling an aspirational thing. It's a pure information.
Are you talking about
play.
like every scene of painting or what? every frame of painting.
Nerd writer.
But I don't know. I would say that they are selling a character, and it's the character of like I can learn everything through observation. It's sort of like it's like this like nerd who knows everything, Like like the explainer. I call the whole post Radio Lab explainer boom.
Oh,
I call it explainer wave, and like I think a lot of guys just like us want to be the person explaining the world to people, just like we're doing right now. And so I wouldn't say that they aren't a character.
Oh, true. Oh, man, really turning the mirror on me right now.
No, I hate it because I don't want to be like, as much as I want to be the person that explains the world to people. Like I've wanted to be that person since I was little. I would go walk in the woods with my friends and I would be like, there's a tadpole right there. Frogs are amphibians. They're indicators of the health of an ecosystem. And they'd be like, wow, that's good. And I would love to teach people about things, but I also recognize that like the white guy explaining things is like the ugliest trope of our modern age.
Well, let's get real here for 2 seconds, right? So, not that we haven't been already, but like I recently just saw a tweet from a white person, or presumably from their avatar. I don't know why you would have a white person avatar I don't know. But yeah, it was basically making like a self-deprecating joke of like, like scene one, like woman is in the hospital room. Scene two, or like cut to the doctor, picks up the baby after the delivery. Scene three, like the punchline is like, "Hey, this is Michael. Welcome to my podcast." That really irritated me. Because is there really anything wrong with that? I don't understand.
I think the only thing wrong with it is that it's just like in line with like the status quo about reality already, which is that like white guys are like the oracles of like objective
100%.
information. That's the only problem with it, is that when you see that more and more, you come to expect it from them, and then your imagination about who can explain things is like constricted and restricted to white guys. That's really the only problem, and it's a tough problem. And that's why I hate even trying to be an explainer at all, because I see myself in like just the legacy of dude.
That's exactly what that's self-criticism is what I'm really talking about. Like the Like, should you stop? Should you
No, it really just makes no.
Do you have an obligation to not
my
do it?
whole thing is like, okay, so maybe I am a white guy that wants to explain stuff, and do I do I really have the right to explain stuff? Do I really know enough to to justify me being the voice? And yeah,
Yes.
and that self criticism is like the engine that propels me to read all these books, because like I want to actually feel like I deserve it.
Yes.
And so yeah, I don't know if that self deprecating, if that self criticism is useful at all. It's useful in that it makes me feel like I actually have to learn shit before I try to say anything of value.
Yes, that's good. No. I would say that is a good.
But I think the problem
sure.
is a lot of like white guys don't think they just like to just start explaining stuff because they look at themselves and they're like, oh, I'm the kind of person that people expect to say smart things, and so they just start saying things that sound smart, but
I mean, listen, that's real shit. Like, there's a lot of podcasts I listen to specifically about if you're listening to this and you know me personally, you know that like my passion is Android phones, despite how stupid that is. I still love it,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And like there is a lot of media out there of. I'll give you a perfect example. Sorry to put Vergecast on blast, but this is real shit. They were talking about the new Galaxy S9, and they were talking. The only thing that's important about the new Galaxy S9 is the camera, right? The reality is like what they said on the podcast was like, oh, Samsung does so much post processing on their images, and someone piped in, and they're like, yeah, but that's sort of at the like chip level. And everybody sort of just like settled on that. They're like, yeah, chip level. Yeah, nothing that we can do as a user for that. And it's like, that's actually not true. It's not important what's actually, you can get an app that actually recompiles the camera app and completely solves all of the post-processing issues. But it is, podcasts are especially like this in terms of people just opining on things they have no idea about, which is, to a certain extent, what I'm doing right now. So that's cool. But, at the same time, the responsibility is sort of on me as a listener in that scenario to not be a shitlord about it. And instead of griefing on Twitter or griefing on a podcast, like what the best thing that I could do is write my own blog article and be like, this is what I heard. Actually, this is what is the case, and not, like I said, just not be a shitlord about it.
Yeah, but it's also their fault. It's also their fault because they present themselves as authorities. And so somebody who doesn't have the knowledge that you have would just accept their shit on face value. And that's my biggest fear, is that look, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I'm good at explaining things. And I like to explain things. And when people do learn things from me, they say they have fun and they learn a lot. And so I'm really worried about presenting wrong facts that people are very, very eagerly accepting as truths. And so that's just my biggest fear, is I want to make sure that I am not doing what you just said. I'm not presenting anything wrong in a very spectacular, exciting way.
No, I mean, if the people listening to this have never sort of worked in media, like there's a very specific feeling of when you get something wrong and you've already pushed the publish button, and it is really the most disgusting feeling.
Because you say it with that explainer way of confidence that people just do not question.
Yep, it hurts, and but that's why the responsibility is so high. So I think that's the responsibility that's on. Because I mean, now that anyone can say anything, anywhere, and it can, it doesn't necessarily get a lot of traction, but it could go viral at any time. Like you gotta keep.
And I guess
straight.
that's what's like the relief about a place like Snapchat, is that because it deletes, you really don't have to worry about saying the wrong thing, because it's not like etched into stone forever. This is a place where you can take risks and like speak just off the cuff. And I mean, at least in theory, like that's what I've observed on that network, is that people are more
They're just looser. Yeah.
I mean, a little more vulnerable. And to me, like, what I've learned about communication is that vulnerability is like key for good communication. Like, people need to feel like their guard is down, and for a lot of reasons.
Right. But what I would say, the nice thing that the silver lining that I've seen for a lot of YouTube drama lately is that, YouTube will correct you. Like, the YouTube community will find you, and they will,
Yeah,
they will turn your foibles into content for themselves. So there is sort of a self-correcting aspect to it.
yeah. So if they have a big enough audience, I guess.
If they have a big enough audience, yes. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's authenticity. We've been here with Evan Rodgers. Evan, you want to plug any of your places where people can find you? Nobody's listening to my podcast yet, so.
Well, I mean, this is one of those things where I think you could have a good podcast because of the talents that you have. So this is going to be one of those times where people are going to dig back in the archive and be like, Evan Rodgers, you said some problematic shit on this podcast. I just want to say thank you. Please tweet at me at Evan Rodgers. Let me know in the harshest way possible about the stupid things that I've said today. And yeah, looking forward to it.
Thanks for answering the call. We've been talking for 65 minutes.
Yeah, this is a cool app. I'm into it.
All right. Yeah. Fine. Wait. You want to tweet? You want to plug your social medias, so in case anybody's listening to it, they can find you.
Yeah. No, I'm just at Evan Rodgers on Twitter. No space in there. That's really the only thing that I'm into right now. I am experimenting with a new blockchain-based cryptocurrency. It's a blockchain-based social media network.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm not really ready to. I don't have like a packaged good on there yet. I'm really just trying it out. So it's cool. It's not Vero. It's called Steam, and people should at least check it out and ask themselves the question that I've been asking myself, which is, what could social media look like without the motivational factors of advertising? And that's all I'm interested in.
Yeah, I feel like we could talk like another hour about this, but yeah.
Yes. Leave that for another episode.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for listening, everyone. Yes. Subscribe to us. Leave us a review, and I'm just saying the things everybody says at the ends of podcasts. Thanks. Bye. I have to hang up too, I guess.